Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, it's time for Customer Experience Radio. Brought to you by Heineken Company, real estate advisors specialized in corporate relocation. Now here's your host, Jill Heineck.
Welcome to Customer Experience Radio. I'm your host, Jill Heineck. I'm a business owner, real estate advisor, and customer experience enthusiast. I'm excited to share the success stories of top business leaders who are prioritizing the customer experience as a legit business strategy. Today, I'm super excited to have Nick Masino, CEO and President of Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce, joining us in the studio this morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
We are too. So we want to talk about the wonderful explosion happening in Gwinnett County and talk to us a little bit about how you got to this position. You're a little bit about your background in economic development and then what led you to this position.
Sure. I am very excited that in July of last year, I accepted and began the role of President and CEO of the Gwinnett Chamber, the largest suburban chamber in the United States. And we're very proud of Gwinnett and the Gwinnett Chamber. I previously was in the chamber. I've been in the chamber for 14 years. I was leading the economic development efforts in an effort called Partnership Gwinnett, which is a collaborative effort between Gwinnett County government, our 16 municipalities, our school system, our private sector industry, and the chamber. And it was the chamber's initiative and idea in 2006 to work on this collaborative effort. And I was really very happy to begin that process. I knew the chamber because previously I had been on the chamber board representing the municipalities of Gwinnett County. I was an 8-year mayor of the city of Suwanee from 2000 to 2007 and knew the chamber presidents very well, the current ones at the time, the previous ones. And I had business acumen because I was in the recruiting and headhunting industry for 12 years. And I led divisions in Metro Atlanta. My last 2.5 years, I was leading a national division of a publicly traded company, and they needed someone that both had the political experience, the know-how, the local background, but then also had business knowledge and could speak to a CEO. And so I was blessed that I had those experiences when they had a need. And it was absolutely, when I came to work at the chamber in 2007 to lead economic development, it was absolutely just so great for me. I loved the organization. I love the community, and I've really enjoyed it. And then to have the opportunity after 13 years in economic development to lead the chamber, I feel very lucky. We have an incredible board, incredible staff, and I'm really having a great time.
I'm so glad to hear that. So, what intrigues me a lot about the Gwinnett Chamber is A, the explosive growth, but B, I want to know a little bit more about how Partnership Gwinnett, where's that puzzle fit in to the overarching economic development strategy?
Sure. By the way, I love the explosive growth of the Gwinnett Chamber too. So we're aligned there. Okay. Partnership Gwinnett is exactly as it's entitled. It is a partnership of all things in Gwinnett, from the public, private, nonprofit, community, driving jobs and investment. There's nothing better for any community, any individual to be gainfully employed, and all that resolves. If there's issues in your life, working is fantastic in regards to family, everything. It's a very positive thing. So the community decided that the chamber alone, the county alone, working to recruit and retain jobs would not be as effective as if we all did it together. So not only did the initiative started, it's a funded initiative by most all governmental organizations in Gwinnett and many of the top leading private sector organizations. And so the chamber, it was their idea, their strategy. Every 5 years, including in 2006, they did a 1-year fully comprehensive interview of everybody in the community, every stakeholder, on what do we need as a community, where should we be focused. And since 2006, every 5 years, and we're coming up next year in that 5-year cycle, we will spend 6 to 9 months going through that large process. We'll hire a consultant to make sure we understand what we're doing, who we are, where we're going, what we need to be focused on. And that effort's ultimate goal is to recruit, retain, and expand jobs in our 5 targeted industries.
Right. So that's a big job.
Yes.
That's a huge initiative.
It is. And we have 10 people inside the chamber embedded on our second floor in the Partnership Gwinnett division. And they get up every day to.
Are they undercover? You said embedded. So
they're embedded. They have covert titles.
Right.
They use secret project codes.
Right.
I can't even see their calendars half the time. We're laughing, but actually all of what I just said was true. There's things that they work on, that have secret codes. And I just know that they're working on a coded project.
Right.
Of which they sometimes tell me the name of the company, but then I forget it. I just remember the sexy code, Project Jaguar.
I love it. So for Partnership Gwinnett, do you have to be a member company in order to benefit from what's happening with that program? So
the Gwinnett Chamber is obviously a membership organization.
Right.
Traditionally, what you think of a chamber, we're just much more exciting than what you might be thinking. Partnership Gwinnett is a separately funded public-private initiative.
Okay.
And so, you could join the Gwinnett Chamber for $495 if you're a small business. Mm-hmm. There's just not that opportunity to engage in Partnership Gwinnett at that level. I mean, their average investor is $10,000 to $15,000 a year.
Makes sense.
On the governmental side. Mm-hmm. Some of them are hundreds of thousands of a year. They're dealing with literally flying around the world recruiting companies to Metro Atlanta and Gwinnett.
Yeah, that sounds exactly right. So I just wanted our listeners to understand where they might be able to get involved, at what level.
Yes, thank you. And the Gwinnett Chamber has a lot to offer, from our general membership to our exclusive Chairman's Club membership. And there's lots of ways to engage. And at gwinnettchamber.org, you can learn all about it.
Well, that's fantastic. I think I'd like to delve into a little bit is what makes your chamber's story so compelling, and why, and how, and how that is attracting and retaining member companies in the Gwinnett area.
Yes. Well, thank you. And I'm excited to share with you. What I hear from members the most is the ability to connect with both the members and the staff of what sets us apart. And I love all of my partner chambers in this region, from our great friends at the Greater North Fulton Chamber, the Cobb Chamber, the Metro Atlanta Chamber. We all get along very well. We communicate on a literally regular basis, sometimes weekly, with my good friends at the Metro Atlanta Chamber. But I think what sets us apart is a little bit about what sets Gwinnett apart. We are this incredibly gigantic community, almost 1 million people. We'll surpass Fulton County in the next 5 years. We will be 1 million people in the next 2 years. And we will be the largest community in Georgia. And what I think sets us apart from like Fulton County is Gwinnett does feel, and if you live and work in Gwinnett, you feel it. We are one community. We are the most diverse community in the Southeast United States. There's a 78.6% chance of 2 Gwinnetians meet. They'll be from a different ethnic background. You've never heard Gwinnetian before, right?
No, the fact that we're talking about matchmaking.
Oh, right. 2 random Gwinnetians, right?
Right.
And so we are incredibly diverse. 25% of our population was born outside the United States. I mean, we are a soup of the world. We are the United Nations of the Southeast, and people have embraced it, and it's really exciting. And really, the reality is maybe 90% of Gwinnetians are not from Gwinnett. Right. They're from around the United States. I moved from Ohio after graduating from college, and many, half of our staff, if not more than half, are not from Gwinnett. And so it's really interesting to be new somewhere and to be welcomed, and then feeling that welcomeness, and then paying it forward. So there's just something really unique. And we feel that at the chamber, and we do that. The chamber has well over 250 events on a daily and weekly basis, that are repetitive programs, networking events that happen on Thursday mornings and Friday mornings. But then we have huge, large scale events like our record setting State of the County happened last week with over 900 people. It's the largest state of the county in the region. It happens on an annual basis. Our annual dinner just took place a few weeks ago. Again, almost 1,000 people. And there's a little bit for everybody. And maybe you don't want to dress up and go to the annual gala, which I call the Gwinnett prom for adults. But maybe you want to go to a networking event and meet with 50 people that are like-minded. And we just have we have something for whatever you're looking for. We are very business focused. We're super focused on lead generation for our members. We want to put people together that can benefit each other. And we like to have fun. We have a business after hours 9 times a year. And I mean, we'll have 250 people. It's a very casual networking environment, and 250 people is a lot of people, and it's after hours, as the name would describe, and it's fun. And so we definitely like to have a good time. We take our job seriously. We don't take ourselves super seriously. Right. There's a lot of laughing that's going on both in the office, and at all of our events. We really try to entertain.
So you're at about 2,000 member companies right now?
Yes. Yeah. We're probably over 2,000 specific. I think we're probably at 2,000 general members and about 200 of our Chairman's Club members, which is our exclusive highest end membership.
Right. So the makeup of your member companies, give us an idea, like from small business to big business.
Not a surprise. 80% plus of our members are the federal government would say they're small business. Federal government says companies under 250 employees is small. That sounds pretty big to me.
Right.
But we are made up, as is the rest of the United States, is made up of small businesses. We do have 2 Fortune 500 headquarters in Gwinnett County. Both of them are members. They're not super active. They're there when they need us. They're dealing with things on a federal and global level. And where we do work with them and help them where they need it, and vice versa. They help us. But I'd say our general member, is the owner or leader of a company that has 50 employees. And that is a very common person at the table, that represent most of my board members probably have 50 to 100 employees.
Nice.
And the thing that's really fun is because 25% of our population born outside the United States from all over the world, there's global discussions that happen every day. Right. And our makeup of both our staff, our members literally look like the world too. It's really fun. And if you're interested in traveling the world but you can't afford it, come spend some time in Gwinnett. Between restaurants and culture, we have it all.
It sounds like it. So what I'm hearing is that there is a member retention experience strategy in place. You may not call it that, but with the events to cater to your different, members, it makes sense and it keeps them engaged.
Yes. What a wonderful thing to ask. I appreciate you asking. When I started on July 1st, I had my number one goal was employee engagement and retention. Because if the staff isn't totally focused on what the goals are, and so I did a lot of listening. I had, at the time we had 34 employees, minimum 1 hour with each employee in my office, 34 meetings over about 40 days. Some of them we did a part 2 and some of them we did a part 3 because they had a lot to share. Right. And I just generally and jokingly say the Gen Zs and the millennials are super positive and their outlook on life is so amazing. And I was so inspired. And myself as a Gen X and the boomers in our office, we're all just totally over it. And we're super negative and we're not negative, but we've experienced
positive energy, bringing positive energy.
Yeah. So it's really nice to have a mix of all 4 of those generations. If we had one or the other, we probably wouldn't be as effective as we are. But in doing so, really got into lots of great discussions about our culture. And I think culture is literally the number one thing any CEO needs to be working on. And if they think it's not at a top 1, 2, or 3, I would argue that they're probably in the wrong role, because culture is what is king in any organization, public, private, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. So I feel like we have done very well focusing on culture. We literally have a committee. They actually have their first meeting next week, which is the employee engagement committee. And you would not be surprised that every Gen Z and millennial wanted to be on the committee. And so we mixed it up between generational gaps. And so once I felt like we were on the right road and we have a great leadership team in place, we then started focusing on what you brought up, which is member engagement and member retention, member retention for any chamber in the United States is super important. Right. Because right off the bat, you're going to have in Gwinnett, because we have 25,000 businesses, we literally could have 250 new businesses start in a year. We probably have over 1,000 starting in a new year. They know we've all been trained. You go join the chamber. Well, as effective as any chamber is, not every business was a good idea in the first place. Right. They may not make it. Right. And so you're just going to have natural turnover in that 10 to 20% of any chamber anywhere in the United States, because the companies just may not be there. But it's that 80% that we really are focused on in regards to, if you can get someone to renew the second year, you may have them for life. And our Chairman's Club, which is our high value, it's $5,500 a year. That's a high value membership. We are spending a lot of time and effort asking our members at all levels what they think, what they're looking for. We have just recently, 2 weeks ago, hired a concierge manager focused specifically on our board members and our Chairman's Club.
Smart.
Thank you. I have not had a unique, interesting idea any time in my life. I just simply ask.
I doubt that.
No, I just stand by that comment. I ask smart people. I never stop asking my members, other great organizations like some of the ones I've mentioned. Two of the ones that we're going to emulate as much as we'll be allowed to, YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and EEO, Entrepreneur Organization. I have many friends that are members or have past members, and they talk about the exclusivity of those programs and those organizations. And we want to partner where we can with both of them, and then emulate them where we can with our Chairman's Club. And then with our general members, we really are focused on what is in their best interest, what is their value. And there's no better way to find out than just asking.
Correct.
So we're asking a lot of questions, listening, and then putting our plans together.
Interesting. So would you call it your member experience strategy, or is it more about retention?
No, they're
hand in hand. They are hand in hand. Yeah. But it's interesting to hear what different companies call it and how they position it inside the organization to then impress upon the team and the culture around delivering that experience, right? So I'm just always curious as to what you call it.
Yes. In the chamber world, member retention is very common. And without a great engagement strategy, your number will not be high. And so I'm a huge KPI fan. I have a BA in communication, so I'm not analytical per se, but how do you measure anything without KPIs? And so you asked me a question, which you said was, do you have about 2,000 members? And I was a little not super clear. I didn't say yes, because I'm unclear about some things. I'm unclear about exactly how many members we have. You think that would be an easy answer. And so we're drilling down on that. And so if I don't know how many members I had last year and I had this year, how do I have an exact number on what my member retention was? So we're looking at all of those things. And we're literally my chair, Tammy Shoebate, this year, she said, Nick, I appreciate what you're doing. You're literally going through every single thing and you're asking why. And we shouldn't do things just because we always have. And so one of those is, how do we calculate these things? What's our internal systems? And so we're looking at everything. But I do believe we have to measure it, and we have to set goals once we actually have a measurement.
So in terms of member retention, I mean, what kind of feedback are you getting from your current members as to what would keep them either renewing every year, or what would make their membership more valuable to them? What are you hearing? Sure.
Well, right off the bat, one of the most interesting things is our communication team was very clear about this, and they had been hearing it for some time. But we were probably over communicating. And our chamber was, I think, famous. It was kind of a joke of a punchline in Gwinnett about getting a lot of emails from the Gwinnett Chamber. So they put a strategy in place based on data, based on research, and communicating to people. And so we're communicating more appropriately. You can sign up for a weekly email, a daily, or a monthly. It's your choice.
I like it.
And we literally had a lot of fun. We did a little video. It was kind of my first hello to the membership. And we had I was speaking from my desk, and I had my monitor behind me, my laptop and my monitor. Then I had my iPhone and I had my iPad, and it all had a giant spam can, a can of spam on the thing. I
love it.
And it said, I've heard that we're over communicating. Some people might call it spam. And so I don't really ever refer to.
Did you come up with that?
No, I'm not. Again, I'm not creative. We have great people on our communications and marketing team, and they did it, and it was awesome. And literally, I've never done anything in regards to video or email, except when I'm on RadioX, that people don't say. I have never said more about that thing, about that specific video. And it was fun to do, but it was effective. And people signed up to the appropriate communication that was in their best interest. So we're communicating effectively. And then in regards to what we've heard is, this is not a surprise. People want to do things that are interesting, entertaining, but effective. They love experiential learning. They want to be involved. They don't want to sit in a lecture hall and be listened and spoken to or talked at. And so we're really trying to focus on everything that is interaction. And we used to do, I would argue, a very, very boring 45-minute, this is chamber orientation. And sometimes it would be an hour and a half. No one wants to be spoken to like that. And so now it's 5 minutes. Welcome. We're excited you're here. You're now going to move between 5 tables over the next 45 minutes, and you're going to interact. There'll be 2 minutes of an introduction, and then we're going to talk about what you want to talk about. And that started for me also in my first leadership meeting. We have a new leadership team in place. We had some people that retired, and I was able to promote from within. We had a lot of A players, top talent. I have not brought in, we've not brought one person in at a leadership role from outside. And that was intentional because we had strong leaders. So we promoted the team, and we start off every staff meeting. I don't lead the staff meeting. We start with, what are the most important things to affect you in the next 2 weeks and our organization? And that's the agenda. And we vote. If there's too many things on the agenda, you can only recommend 3 things. And so we're leading as a group, and it's not a dictatorship, but we're also constantly communicating. We do a 50-second huddle every morning on the leadership team in my office, and we stand so we don't stay very long, and we're just listening and focused. And so we have a very strong internal feedback loop between the staff and the leadership team, where we're communicating through the leaders, and then we're hearing back what's going on. And so I think the communication is important for us to be able to respond to our members.
Well, everything you've just said, that's where the magic is, right? So your leadership, you have a cohesive team who's then the other parts of your organization sees that, feels that, that's where your culture is. And so they're going to help really deliver at a fantastic level, an experience that your members are going to love and continue to come back for more, right?
Right.
So,
and can I say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, and I'm not trying to self-deprecate by any means, but I'm happy to always. Everything I've just said, many of the listeners have heard these principles. I didn't create any of them. Patrick Lencioni, these are really bright people, have been preaching these things for decades.
Years.
You can write books. I mean, you name them. Andy Stanley.
Oh, of course.
I mean, what a fantastic, that's a great podcast, his leadership lessons. And I'm not inventing anything. I'm just implementing things that I've heard from great leaders.
Which is a huge step in the right direction, because we do hear a lot of leadership that talks a lot about these things, but doesn't actually take action or empower the team to take the action, or have the team feel part of the action, or have the team feel part of the decision making with the actions that are happening. So from an engagement perspective, I think you're going at it from all levels.
Well, thank you.
That's what's very exciting about it to me.
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, and so I'm just listening and in implementing things. And I will tell you, in regards to staff meetings, they're so good. But at a point in my career, they were really bad and stale. And I brought in a Patrick Lencioni consultant, and I said, none of us feel like our meetings are effective. This was about 4 years ago when I was leading the economic development office. And he said, it's really interesting. We did a lot of we did these assessments, and the team loved the team and the team culture. I mean, we were off the charts, but we didn't like to meet. So who loves working together, but they don't like to meet? It's because our meetings were stale and boring, and I was talking too much. And so they came in, they blew it up, and now we still love the culture is awesome. And we actually have an effective meeting process.
So when you meet, where is the meeting?
The meeting happens. Well, the senior leadership team meets every Monday at 9:00 for 60 minutes at the most. Sometimes we wrap up
around
early.
the air hockey table.
No, the Gen Zs have not taken over completely. No, it's a boring wooden table, and then we have in another room a granite boring table, but it's a conference room, and we do sit,
and you talk
and we communicate. It's crazy.
And those meetings aren't lasting hours on that.
No, only 1 hour. And sometimes we'll vote. We're like, hey, we need 2 more minutes for this, or 5 more minutes for this. And the other thing though that was super effective that I'm got a problem with is I don't put my phone down. So we leave our phones out of the office.
Nice.
Or we keep them in our pockets, and we might pull them out just to use the calendar to choose a date.
Right.
But it's rude anyway. And I'm labeling myself as many times I'm using my phone when I shouldn't be. So that's again, this is all just communicating, and there's nothing off topic. So I've been called out and I've encouraged people to call me out if I'm on my phone when I shouldn't be.
Understood. That's the culture we're in.
Yes.
Right. That's what
and we have to lead by example.
Right. Exactly. So talk to me a little bit about a couple of initiatives that you're real excited about happening for, you're having the pipeline for 2020.
Sure.
What's the team working on?
Sure. The one that it's so fresh right now because on Monday, a young man named Paul O.H., he just started. He's my manager of public policy and community affairs. Mm-hmm. We haven't had a staff person focused on public policy in 7 years. Paul worked up until last Friday with Congressman Rob Woodall, the 7th District. Paul went to Pope High School in Cobb and went to Georgia Tech. He's been with, he did a small stint as an intern with the Georgia Chamber. And he started with us. He literally does public policy, community affairs, and he's my administrative support. So I don't need full-time support, but because of my political background and engagement, Paul and I are going to work closely together. And right off the bat yesterday, he introduced himself to all of our General Assembly members in Gwinnett, shared our public policy agenda that's put together internally. Our marketing team does a great job. They're very creative. And he shared it with all of them. I know we've had a public policy agenda. I'm unsure if someone ever shared it with anybody, but we are sharing it with both our federal delegation, our local delegation, and then next week he's going to share it with every mayor and every city council member and introduce himself. And so we as the Gwinnett Chamber represent the business interests of our community, and we will unapologetically defend them when it comes to bad legislation, current legislation that might exist that needs to be changed, and legislation that needs to be proposed. One of those items, if I could share, is Gwinnett. I don't know if you live in Metro Atlanta, you might have realized we have a congestion issue.
Really?
Yes, and we're not going to be able to build roads out of this problem, but we need to have alternatives. There is no alternative to driving in Gwinnett County, and I've had people in the past foolishly say, well, you could ride your bike or you could walk. The walkability and bikeability score, I would argue anywhere outside of just a couple of small pockets in our entire region is pretty poor. And so we have to give Gwinnetians an alternative, and that is going to be, and it's going to cost money. And we will have a bond referendum, hopefully, in November. We'll be able to vote to increase our ability to tax ourselves. And so Paul's going to be driving that issue for us internally at the chamber. And we have to, I've not spoken to a CEO that, by the way, that doesn't want that. And I'll share that we're in a building that, West Rock is headquartered, and they are no longer in Gwinnett because one of the reasons was because they didn't have access, to transit. And West Rock's a global company, and they need access to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. And when you have a one option, which is a car, that doesn't give you any options.
So now, from a recent win perspective, do you have anything in 2019 or in recent months or weeks that you can share with us?
Sure. And you're referring to economic development projects?
Sure.
Okay. Well,
whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. Thank you. So last year, actually, interestingly enough, now that I'm out of the way in the economic development arena, and it's now led by Andrew Carnes, they actually had a record year. Our goal is about 2,000 new jobs in our targeted industries. These are high paying, high value target industries. They had, I think, 3,200 new jobs, which was led by, and I'm sure you've read about a giant Amazon fulfillment center just in Gwinnett County on the border with DeKalb in the shadows of Stone Mountain. And this is a multi-$100-million development, 3 stories, robotics, hundreds of employees, millions of investment. It is one of the most modern logistical centers that Georgia will have ever seen. And so that was, thank you so much. And that was a great project between Gwinnett County, the state of Georgia, and Amazon. I mean, it was a real partnership between everyone involved. That's
a big boon for the area.
Yeah, we're very excited. Very excited. And so we already have 15 additional announcements to announce this year. But out of respect for these private companies, they have to dictate when they're going to make the announcement.
Right.
They could be expanding, but they could sometimes be consolidating, and they need to notify people in other parts of the world. We're really blessed in Metro Atlanta because this is where people want to be.
Right.
When they're, even during the horrible recession of 2008 to 2012, many of our companies actually expanded in Gwinnett and in Metro Atlanta because of consolidations.
Right.
So if you have an office in Boise and, I don't want to pick on other places, but you think of a random place and you're like, we need to consolidate. Atlanta's pretty awesome. Not only do we have a growing population, and in the worst depths of the recession, Atlanta's population still rose. I mean, Gwinnett County in our worst year during the recession, we still had 6,000 new employees. There are multiple states that lost population. So this is where people want to be, obviously, thanks to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, more direct flights to any other place in the world. It's an incredible airport, incredible asset. And it's the reason why we have well over 600 international businesses have an operation based in Gwinnett, and about 200 of them, it's their Americas headquarters because of Hartsfield-Jackson, obviously our port. Right. Just an easy way to get around.
It really is. So, tell me, maybe one or two of a wow experience that you might have had recently with an organization or a company, that you really thought, I could really adopt some kind of, culture point to my organization because of the experience I've had with them.
Okay. You're totally putting me on the spot on that one, but I'm going to do the best I can. So as we have, revamped our revamped our membership, and I mentioned our new position, our concierge service. That came to light when we were really focusing on the word concierge, when we did our annual board retreat at the Ritz-Carlton Reynolds Plantation.
Oh, perfect.
And if you can't, we're really lucky to have, multiple Ritzes, in Metro Atlanta and Georgia. And then we're obviously the headquarters of Chick-fil-A. When you think about customer services, customer service excellence, those two organizations with the my pleasure. Right. And really, as we were designing that position, we had that in mind, not even mine. We talked about it, and literally in our job description, we referred to Chick-fil-A and Ritz-Carlton, and we were trying to set the standard for customer service. And you think, Ritz-Carlton, you can feel it when you walk in the door. And that's it. It's a very expensive, high end caliber place. And then Chick-fil-A is, let's be honest, it's a fast food restaurant, selling chicken. Right. But you just feel special every time you interact. Right. And that's what we wanted our Chairman's Club members to feel like.
Excellent.
And then I actually, mentioned already EO and YPO, and their members, they just gloat almost when they're talking about their organization. Right. And I literally looked at some of the stats. I was like, I got 3 EO members together, and I said, tell us about it. And we were just listening, and they were gloating about how great it was. And I thought, okay, could you imagine someone describing us that way? That is our goal. We want people to just brag. You're in this. We're in this and you're not. And so I've joked with the staff, if we can get our service levels, we won't even have to sell anything anymore. We'll just become order takers.
That's the idea.
That's the idea. That's the aspirational goal, right? Right. But that's where we want to be. I hopefully that was helpful in answering your question.
Yeah. So it's you enjoy a Ritz-Carlton experience, right? Every time you're there.
Yes, every time.
We had
let's go right after
we had Horst Schultz. We had Horst Schultz here last year.
He's fun.
And he was
Sounds
fantastic,
so cool.
talking about how he empowers his team in order to deliver that top guest experience so that you do have lifelong guests. That's the whole point. And so I think it's a fantastic, kind of example. And as long as everyone in your organization can actually experience it in order to then be able to deliver it.
Okay, that's great. So now we got to take the entire team to the Ritz-Carlton.
I'm just saying.
Thank you so much for that.
And they can, thank me.
Yes, of course. Well, I think we should invite you to join us.
But I think that's the way, when you experience it, then you better understand it.
Right. You know what? I got a better idea. We're going to start with Chick-fil-A.
Perfect.
Okay.
Not knocking it.
Yeah.
We also had Deanne Turner, formerly of Chick-fil-A. She was here right after Horsey came, and we had a fantastic conversation with her also about how they were, when she was in the organization, she's now on her own speaking about what she was doing there. And one of the things she mentioned is that, we really wanted to make sure everybody felt like they were cared for and part of this team culture, so that it trickled down to the customer experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you've already spoken to that point. So you're on the right track.
Thank you. Actually, I spoke to both of your guests. You know what they said about the show? They said it was their pleasure to be here.
Of course they did. That was a good one.
Thank you so much.
Well, I have enjoyed you so much today. Thank you so much for fighting the traffic and coming to see us.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it. So for our listeners, we can go to where to find out more about the Gwinnett Chamber?
GwinnettChamber.org.
Excellent. And again, thanks, Nick. And this has been Customer Experience Radio.
Thank you.